Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Finally. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm so happy that today we have the possibility to meet with Fredrik Gertten. I learned about Fredrik after I watched the documentary Push. It was about 2 months ago, maybe. After Saskia Assassin gave me advice to watch this documentary, and I am really excited. I said to Leilani that I think that everyone should watch this movie. Maybe the schools and universities should be obligated to show this movie to students because it touches very important issue, very important problem of adequate housing and housing generally. And I have to say that after I watched this movie, I find out that you have about 15 documentaries done, yes? And yeah. Also you are producer of the same amount of documentaries.
You can go to our website, www.film.com. And
I see this.
And you can rent them if you want to see them. So it's
I definitely I watched this bikes vs cars and bananas at any cost. I like them also very much, and I'm planning to watch other ones as well. This Big Boys Gun Bananas. Also,
Big Boys Gun Bananas is interesting because it was about us being sued by a big banana company.
And also, Final Image. You are producer of this film about journalists killed in Chile. But today, mostly, I would like to talk about this film, Push. Fredrik, could you tell us what make an inspiration? Why do you decide to make this documentary?
I mean, I all the time go around and try to understand what's happening around us. And this very thing that the prices of our homes are going up all the time. It's been like on my mind for a long time. And I wanted to understand what is happening, what are the driving factors around this. And of course, I had some theories about it. It's obviously that the most powerful are getting more powerful all the time. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to understand how. So this was like a journey I started to get into. So the whole film is almost like a learning experience also for me. I didn't start out knowing everything. So it's like but then in this process, I needed almost like a private detective. And then I found Leilani Farah, who was then the UN Special Rapporteur on Adequate Housing. And it was a really lucky meeting because Leilani, she is a very curious person, very open, also emotionally open. So she's not a typical UN or human rights person. So she's like a very, very cool person. So she was like a perfect match for a documentary film, which I didn't know in the beginning, but you have to find out. But we really clicked. So we quite soon started to interact, sending each other WhatsApp, what is this? Have you seen this article? How do you read this? How do you understand this? So it was like I pushed her and she pushed me into a deeper understanding of the phenomenon. So this was a process during 2 years. So, and this is also, it has also rolled on actually, because right now, Leilani and I have started to do a podcast. So it's actually out now on the platform. So we started to promote it next week, but it's so we keep trying to understand what's cooking. It's an interesting journey.
Yeah. Could you tell how long it took to make scenario of this documentary? The language of this documentary is very clear. It makes interesting for
Yeah,
big amount of people.
No, I'm not an academic. So for me, it's important to make films that also a 12-year-old can understand. Even if people don't understand everything, I don't want to do films for a small group of intellectuals. I want my films to hit the stomachs and the fantasy of a lot of people around the world. And I think that's more fun. And of course, I've had some amazing reactions also from academics saying, I've been working on this for 20 years, but you are telling this sharper than I tell it the story. And that's a compliment. But I mean, while doing the film, I think that I include in the film has to be something that I myself understand, you know? So it's about, one way, putting simple questions and try to get a simple answer back.
Yeah.
It's also like there is a language war out there, because the powerful people, the financial industry and so on, they have created their own language. And that's a very complicated language. And so that language is keeping us away because we don't really know what they're talking about. And of course, with that language, they are also creating the explanation models of what's going on in the world. And they're selling those models to the politicians, to the newspapers, the editors, and so on. So that's like a part of their lobby, is to create this almost secret language. I think our job is to create a counter language that is like partly taking down all their words. So I think that's been part of mine and Leilani's challenge here, is to bring it down.
Yeah, she said yes. Fredrik was pushing me not to use NGO-ish language.
Yes.
Use language which people understand.
Yes. Yeah.
And also, I think that the academics you have in this movie, like Saskia Sassen and Joseph Stiglitz, they also use the simple language, which is, I think, easy to understand. Yeah. They talk about complex things, but they talk in a way that you can understand what they are talking about. Yeah, and
I think that's. I've been really researching to find people who can talk about these issues, and I've been listening to a lot of TED Talks, a lot of YouTube videos with people, and most people are local, have a local perspective. They don't really have a global perspective. So suddenly, when you start to look for people who can speak simple, you find these really, Nobel laureates, and I mean, Saskia Sassen is like she's a legend, and they don't. For them, it's not a problem to speak simple. They're strong enough. But some other academics, there's a tradition to almost like to complicate things. I'm so amazed that Joseph Stiglitz tells us that you can make a lot of money by destroying the planet, but there is something wrong with that. I love that sentence, because it's a sentence that a child in kindergarten could say also. But but it's a very important sentence. You can kick people out of their homes, but there's something wrong with it,
Yeah.
So it's basically a moral thing, And so it's not only about language; it's also about morals.
Yeah, and he also said that the morality is removed from the business now. Yeah, and it's not right.
No, if we want a better world, we have to put the morality back, where it should be.
Yeah,
and because the children, we teach children morals.
Yeah, and how long it took to make this?
I mean, from the day I started the film with Leilani, it took around 2 years.
2 years, but before?
I mean, then I've had this idea. I've been writing on it for you know, also doing other stuff. So I had it coming for like 2 more years, but then, you know, it's when you start to move, it really happens, you know. Because I had been writing stuff before, and I, you know, I had some development money, so I could go, and I was happy that I found Leilani. I mean, I was already in contact with Saskia Sassen before I found Leilani, so it's like it was clear that Leilani really helped me to make the film, because when you want to do a film about a global pattern, you need also somebody who has a global perspective. It's not so easy to find people with that, like that. So Leilani really have a global perspective. So, and the cool thing is that when the film is out now, when I show the film, and I've been to many countries with the film, people start to talk about their own city. And I hope you can do that also in Tbilisi. You see the film, there's nothing from Tbilisi in the film, but you can still talk about your own city. Because you think your city is unique, and of course it is in some ways, but the game that goes on is a copy of something happens in many, many other cities. Because the people with money are not so creative. They are copycats. They are stealing ideas from others, and now everybody wants to go to housing, and then that will happen also in your town.
Besides these 4 participants like Leilani, Saskia Sassen, Joseph Stiglitz, and Roberto Saviano, there are also very interesting characters like, I don't know their names, but like this guy who owns this bar, this cool guy, who sings very lovely, and also this owner of this confectionery.
Yeah, of course, I mean, there's a lot of witnesses in the film about something going on. And of course, these people, all of us can identify ourselves with them, you know.
Yeah.
Also for me, it was also important to, in the film, have people who are in situations that we can all identify with. Also, you know, the bar in the opening, it's also, that's what we love with cities. I'm sure you also in Tbilisi have some really cool places where you can really feel that, wow, people come together. This is what we love with the city. Unexpected things happen. You meet people, you know, and this new development in many cities are killing that kind of culture. The city culture is under threat by these forces. And I think that's what we see when we meet what we love, and then we see these forces coming in. Then we understand that we have to defend something. A lot of these new buildings and new condos shooting up around the world are all so-called REITs, the real estate investment trusts. So they're also parts of some kind of financial product. And the investors in that product are also then the global change, like Starbucks and so on. They're a part of, Starbucks is making sometimes more money with real estate than selling coffee. So they are a part of this new building, and then they lease it out to a local Starbucks owner, but they make money themselves with that contract. I think that also goes for McDonald's and so on. They are making more money out of the real estate by renting to their own leaseholders. So it's a very cynical way of making money. And it's all sucking money out of the local market. So if you go to one of these global change, you're actually sending money out of Georgia.
I think that push helped to make some positive changes, because some positive changes started, in some countries, in some cities like Berlin or like Barcelona. A few days ago, I read an article which wrote the mayor of Lisbon, who said that they are going to support moving back this important stuff like hospital staff, like teachers.
So Lisbon is fighting back, Barcelona is fighting back. Amsterdam took a very tough legislation against Airbnb right now, so they're basically banning all Airbnb, Amsterdam. So it happens in city to city to city all over the world right now.
In Denmark also, yes.
And in Denmark, there's new legislation from the 1st of July, which is basically anti-Blackstone legislation. Denmark is the place where we had our premiere, and the film has been really key in Denmark. So it's kind of, so it means they have put a 5-year rent cap. So it makes it harder for global hedge funds to make money in Denmark right now. So there is good stuff happening.
Yeah, Fredrik, this housing problem is part of global problem somehow connected with the human rights. Everybody knows that education is human right, the healthcare is human right, and in those fields we have the same kind of problem.
I agree. It's a global problem and that you need some kind of global solution. But I think the first step is like a global understanding, and global understanding, and that hopefully the film is helping you with that. And then you can move that global understanding to your own town, to your own country. If you as a university make a mapping of the city of Tbilisi, who are the owners of the city? Is there any new owners? Who are the owners? Are they multinational? Where are the money coming from? Because it's not only hedge funds, it's also a lot of criminal money. The criminal money, and that's not a local problem, it's a global problem. The criminal money is huge. The criminal money are looking for ways where they can launder the money, and they found out that the real estate and houses is like the best place. And then they are buying it from different tax havens. And when the money enters into your town or to my town, it appears as normal money. But that money is competing in a very unfair way to all the rest of the citizens that are trying to be civil, trying to pay taxes, trying to do the right things. And that money is coming in. So, how can we compete with drug dealers or refugee smugglers that make billions of dollars in illegal business, and then that money they're entering into our town? How can we compete with them? So that's, of course, that's something we should all have a look for. It's because the criminals are there, but there's also another sector of lawyers and real estate agents and a lot of other people who are actually helping the criminals to move into your country. So it's you amongst your students having people who are going out to be part of that world, you should really train them to be ethical, But it's hard to say no, because criminal money is still money, and you can get your little slice of it if you're a part of it, but you're destroying your own country.
Yeah, I agree with you that it needs time, it needs education and talking about it and to understand how to solve it, etc., etc. Do you think that this pandemic somehow helped to understand and to talk about these problems and to somehow to solve these problems?
I think that for many people, the pandemic is highlighting what is important in life. You're totally right with that. But I don't think the criminals or the big hedge funds really care about that. For them, this time is the perfect shopping time. They know that a lot of people are losing money. So for them, it's the right time to step in. They're right now just sitting and waiting to go shopping undervalued assets. There's a big risk that criminals are taking a stronger grip right now. You have to watch out, and you have to monitor this. This is also something that a university can do. You can use your research resources to look into the money floating into your country right now. Mm-hmm. If there is a lot of small people who are losing money, and then they need to go somewhere to survive, they will probably go to criminals.
Yeah.
They have a lot of money.
Yeah, I think you are right that this pandemic and this crisis shows us that there is problem, but also this is opportunity for these bad guys to become stronger. In 2008, these companies.
The big lesson from 2008 is that, you know, when it happened 2008, the financial crisis, you know, many of us thought, wow, finally the world can see how irresponsible these banks and the financial people are. Finally, we can go into a better financial system. But in fact, it was the small people who lost their homes. In the US, it was 13 million people lost their homes. In Spain, 1 million. In Ireland, 600,000. You know, all those homes was grabbed by the hedge funds like Blackstone and others. So it wasn't good for the people. And in the propaganda, you know, because they are also so good in creating political language, we didn't talk about irresponsible financial people. The whole world started to talk about Greece. Greece is irresponsible. You know, that was like the big story for a long time, the crisis in Greece. And that's a very classical spin of things. They want us to shift the focus away from them being irresponsible and creating this crisis. Then they point fingers towards Greece. And then when the EU is coming in to help the Greece, they're coming in with deregulation, deregulation, deregulation. And that did the same on Cyprus, in Portugal, in many other countries. So when the countries wanted to step out of the crisis, they had to give up the control of their own housing markets and so on, which has now led to a total crisis in housing in many cities, thanks to the financial crisis. And also the measures implemented or forced upon people by the World Bank or by, you know, by other, you know, the European funds and so on. So it's a very neoliberal agenda on these institutions, and they are really, it has a very, very bad effect on cities.
Yeah, I agree with you. They teach us market should solve the problems, yes, but when crisis came in 2008, they received bailout. I don't remember, but huge amount of money from the government, not people who lose their homes.
This is happening now again. The same things are repeating.
Unfortunately, yes. We don't have right priorities.
And we should also understand that this is what I talked about before, is the explanation models on why the government has to do it in a certain way. That's the fight you have to take, you and your students, because if you can create a different language, then you can make people understand that their solutions are not the good solutions. They are selling it as a way, we have to do it like this. If you don't look at that, you are naive, you're wishful, you know, that's what they're always trying to tell you that you are stupid or naive. So that's a part of the game. And of course, they are investing a lot of money into think tanks, and in the think tanks, they hire a lot of university professors and the big names. They're paying them to be there to give some kind of scientific leverage to things, you know. But it's if you want to fight it, you have to fight their language and fight their lobbies, and you do that by being sharper and also understanding what's going on.
Yeah, I agree with you that we have to do it, yes, but unfortunately it's very difficult because they are, as you said, that they are investing a lot of money to teach young generation that the less regulation is good, etc., etc. But yes, there is no other way. No. But you have to fight. And as Leilani said, step by step, little by little, you have to try to improve it. Yeah.
You're totally right.
I think that also these movements like Occupy Wall Street, or this movement like Black Lives Matter and others as well, I think those are indicators that there is something wrong and we have to change something, because
I think it's quite obvious that everybody who's doing what we are taught to do in school and so on, everybody who's trying to do it the right way, study, work hard, bring up your kids, be nice to others, be solidarian, all the values that are like in the social contract of a society. All those people are the ones who have a problem today. And the people who's doing well are the rule breakers, people who don't give a shit about the social contract. And I think what's happening now in Chile or in the US or in Hong Kong or in Beirut or in many other places in France where people are protesting, they're protesting because they feel that whatever they do, they don't stand a chance. The criminals are always coming by with their big cars, you know, and the people on the streets in Chile. I was recently in Chile with a film. Not only the poor people from the very poor neighborhoods. It's also the architects. It's also the engineers. It's a lot of people who are, or the doctors, and so a lot of people doing fine in society, or should be doing fine, but they are also kicked down because of this kind of the grip that the criminals have taken, or the people who break the rules, who are not, they don't want to pay taxes, they don't want to be solidarian to the society. They talk a lot about being a part of it, but they're not. They're all breaking the rules, and they want us to obey the rules. And I think that's happening right now. And in the US, and the movements in the US right now are really strong. But you can, if you look, I mean, that was something we looked into making push. I mean, of the 13 million people who lost their homes in the financial crisis in the US, the majority of those homeowners were African Americans and Latinos. Those are who lost most. So if you think of the people who are most stable financially in the Black communities in the US, when they are kicked down, they were on their way up and then boom. And so, I mean, so people are really angry, and they have a right to be, because they think that they're playing by the book, and then they don't stand a chance, because the other guys are just woof, they just do whatever they want. So this is you can see repeated everywhere. I mean, Hong Kong is the city with the highest housing prices in the world. So you can work hard, you can be the top student, you can be everything, you know, you really do it all the way, but then you still have to live in 15 square meters with your family, you know. It's like people are kicked down all the time, and that's I think in the end people flip, people go crazy, and I understand them. You know, 30, 40 years ago, people were owning 70% of their homes. I mean, in the Western world at least, and now people own maybe 20%. So the cities have been taken over by the financial institutions. But the ownership of the cities are actually shifted away. There's a lot of people who think they are millionaires. They're sitting on property that has been is now much more expensive. And of course, some of them can do fine, but for most of them, if they want their children to have the same, they have to buy.
Yeah.
And if they want to divorce, you know, it's impossible because you can't buy for the other one. You know, it's like it's on paper, people are looked at like they're doing really fine, but it's also homeowners with good homes are also under stress right now. and their children for sure are under stress.
Yeah, because the income is stable, it does not increase. But prices for housing, it increases. Yeah. Do you have some plans and some ideas? Do you work on some scenarios?
I'm all the time looking for those things that I have to try to understand. So it's one day there will be something new coming out, but it will take some time.
I'm very grateful to Saskia that she advised me to watch this movie. And I will try to make this online screening for Georgian students. If you understand the problem with housing, it is easier than to understand that other problems with education, with healthcare, and other problems are the same. Fredrik, thank you very much.
Very much. My love to your students. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.